There's up there.
Well, there we go.
You may have to read.
Okay,
mine.
call the meeting to order. At this point, we'll turn it over to Sherry Corrier for an introduction leading up to the constitutional officer's budget. Sherry?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, we're here this afternoon to review the constitutional's budget for the next two-year budget. We have, also to my left, we have Jan Brewer, who's our Financial Management Department Director. And Jan and her staff have worked directly with the constitutionals and then brought that forward to me to bring you a budget today, and I'm going to turn it over to Jan.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. What we've tried to do, we worked with all your constitutional offices. It's been a pleasure this year. Everyone has worked so well with us. What we're going to do, we tried the last couple of years to get this very systematic. So it can be very confusing, and we're trying to take most of that away. We're going to present it in the same format, and what I'd like to do is walk you through it and then have the constitutional officer come up, and if there's any questions that you have for them. So with that, Jamie, can we start on the first slide?
Oh, yeah, we can read that.
Yeah, you have it in your book. No, you have in your book page 9. Page 9 in your book for today. And this is for court administration. Now, court administration actually incurs a lot of different pieces. So if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about how this page is set up, and then we'll walk through each one. So the very first column is the base budget from last year. It's what they actually had and what the changes were. The middle column is the requested budget for FY20. This is what your constitutional office came in and asked for. And then the third one is the recommended budget. And that's what we've done. So if you do not mind, Walt Smith is here. And Walt, if you want to come on up, and we can talk as we go through. But what I'd like to start with,
The electric chair, is that what's?
so on court administration, under the very top, that we fully funded everything that they had asked for. The changes are in base expenses of only $6,900, but we also funded the guardianship monitor that they requested.
Yes.
Oh, thank
Way
you.
to
I'm
go.
sure Vanessa's happy about that.
I am thrilled. Thank you.
And the next one down deals with drug court counseling and Centerstone. In the past, what has always happened is that there are grants that are received during this, and the grants come in, and it's always been a request to fully fund this. But in the past, what we've done is we set aside funding to make sure we could fund it in case the grants did not. Now, and Walt may be able to speak to this more, but this year they did request the full amount of $294,891 to fully fund drug court without the grants involved. What we did do is we have set up in his line item as if the grant's going to continue on, but I have it in reserves in a recurring basis for that if it doesn't, yes. Moving on down to the next section is drug court probation. The court administration had asked for $370,625, minor change in base expenses. And when I say base expenses, those are maybe utilities, it may be certain things that we take care of. So it was not them asking for a change, it's for us. And we fully funded at $376,25. The next area is a truancy hearing officer. Now, this is a contribution that comes from the school board. And if you notice, it's funded by the amount, and the funding will come from the school board at this time for that. So it's fully funded. There is a citizens dispute program, which is the next item down, requested at $58,084, fully funded $58,084. Now, this is the last section, which is court technology, and if you remember, that has to do with Article 5 funding. We receive a revenue stream of a certain amount of dollars for all the cases going across the street that funds to us. It comes to you at about $750,000 a year, roughly, is where it comes. Over the last several years, you have oftentimes had to fund beyond that in order to make it work. This year, Walt, and he will be able to explain better. There's several recurring expenses and non-recurring expenses, one-time things. So out of all that was asked, we funded the full 409,585. Court administration does take care of the entire court building over there, inside the courtrooms, inside everything with all the technology. So over in all, they asked for 1,322,605, and you funded in this budget presented 1,322,605.
Well, that's like a miracle.
Are we in the
Have
right
not much
room?
to say, dear.
I really don't.
Thank you.
You know, it's,
Careful, all you can do is screw it up.
but I did want to say thank you. Because, you know, you all that have been on the board for a couple of years have known that we've been asking for the guardianship monitor position to help the folks that are wards of the state who reside in Manatee County and are giving sort of the eyes and ears of the court on these folks to try to make sure they're in the least restrictive situation that they need to be in, that they get whatever rights that they're able to extend to themselves, and just provide a better oversight of that system in and of itself. So we very much appreciate the county funding this position. And the drug court, moving over from away from grants, which are variable and you never quite know until way after the fiscal year starts when the grants and how much the grants will come in. This will just be a much more stable situation for us. So other than that, I think it's pretty much a continuation budget, and we're very thankful for your support. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that I know you all passed a resolution to say to the agencies that get state budgets, what's your state budget? And when we were talking to Sherry and Jan and about our state budget, and, you know, their eyes would get wider and wider going, what? You can't be, you know, it can't be true about that. The legislature gives a chunk of money for the trial courts to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court delegates how that's divided up to a commission called the Trial Court Budget Commission. I happen to sit on that commission to represent our circuit. And then the Trial Court Budget Commission divvies up the money between the circuits and then makes recommendations back to the Supreme Court, which then the Supreme Court issues a administration memorandum. You know, the state fiscal year starts July 1st. We get that budget and pay memorandum from the Chief Justice usually towards the end of July. So we're already a month into our fiscal year by the time we figure out how much money we have to spend in the whole year. So I know it sounds crazy, but we are, and it maybe is crazy, but we're sort of used to maintaining the budget that we had the previous year. And then we know if the legislature gave more positions to the state courts or took something away. So we have an idea that there may be some changes, but we don't really have our budget till after the fiscal year begins. So it's hard, we can't give it to you in advance, except for the budget that we have in the current fiscal year. So there was a little confusion about that, and I just wanted to make sure if anybody had any questions, you know, I could answer that.
Commissioner Whitmore?
Just real quick, the one program that we normally rely on grants, Jan, what was it again?
The drug court.
Okay, so let's say you do get grants. Does that money stay in a reserve for you for a rollover for next year, or does it go back to us?
I think it goes back to you all, and, you know,
It's
to
in-
offset the money that you're putting out or guaranteeing up front.
Okay.
Yes, correct, Walt. No, you answered it.
You-
It's
I'm sure
correct.
you
It's
can
in
do a better job.
reserves.
And let me just mention too with Walt here that the federal government and the state government have been a little slow getting their budget grants to us, and so having this in reserve allows us to allow things to continue, no matter what the result is. But last year, we didn't get things for about 8 months into the year. So it matters what goes on at the federal government. If there's a stop up there, it impacts the grants that come from there, and one of them is a drug court-related grant.
Thank you.
So, yes.
And I just wanted to say, it's really been an honor working with you. I had to say that.
Oh, thank you. I was going to mention that this is my last budget presentation.
No. Yeah,
I
it
will be
is.
retiring at the end of November, and I just wanted to say thank you, and personally, I appreciate the support and the level of communication that exists between the court and the county. I've had a wonderful time. Been the court administrator for 22 years, and it's been great, and I thank you all for it.
And we have we've dropped off our annually meeting with our,
No, we actually are trying to coordinate a
good.
new one in September, and Karen Stewart's in charge of that. She's got some dates. We'll work with them to land on one, but we do plan to have one this year.
And
See
I'm
you then.
always available for a party.
I know, you'll be there. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have one item that Ms. Brewer would like to explain.
One of the items that has come to our attention and what I'd like you to expand upon it is that there's an opportunity for a new judge that may be coming in the juvenile section. And if that occurs, what that would entail for support on this side of what you need.
Okay. We asked the legislature for a new judge, a new circuit judge. And obviously, you know, the circuit is Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties. But the need in our circuit is for kids in Manatee County. We have a lot of kids who are under the foster care system that are involved in, either they or their parents are involved in the opioid epidemic, and it's creating a situation where, from the court side of things, there are just so many kids in so many cases and not enough time that we had requested another judge to use in the juvenile division, to create a second juvenile division. And so it's in the governor's budget. The governor can veto it. And there are actually two bills, the budget bill and then another bill that changes the statute language to change the number of circuit judges from 21 to 22. But we really do need it in Manatee County. And then what happens is it has an effect on the sheriff in terms of, you know, maybe there's another bailiff that they have to staff another courtroom, the clerk that has to put a clerk in the courtroom, you know, depending on what their staffing levels are now. But all in all, I think it will have a substantial impact on the way we can handle cases and get through cases and get people on tracks. We've started something called I call it baby court, but it's really the early childhood court, where we take parents who have been neglectful or abusive with kids in the 0 to 3 range and try to get them services quicker and more extensively early on. And that creates the decision-making happening quicker to say they're either going to make it or they're not. And if they're going to make it, we've done all these services, and we really have, and that's a tribute to all the other agencies. But so many of those parents have turned it around with those services that it's really worked wonderfully. And then on the flip side, you find out that these parents don't want their kids, that they, you know, just don't want to participate, they don't want services. And then we can move on to placing that kid with another parent, foster parent, and then an adopted parent. So that has been working really well. It's obviously time and intensive, but again, the foster care system involves lots and lots of different agencies. And having a second judge will put some strain on all of those agencies until they can, you know, hopefully staff up a little bit as well.
Thank you. I just didn't want you to be surprised if that comes down the pathway. Right now, it's not in the budget, but we're
It
waiting.
is in the budget. The legislature passed
Legislative,
it.
but not ours.
The governor,
Yes.
hasn't signed the budget bill yet,
Yes.
so.
Okay, Commissioner Bellamy?
Okay, a couple questions about the drug court funding as far as understanding the reserve. Worst case scenario, grant does not take place. We have that there. Best case scenario, the grant does take place. It's in reserve, so will drug court have an ongoing reserve from this point on? Where we will not have to continue to have that level of concern about drug court being funded? Is that where we're going with this?
Yep, that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Benak?
Yeah, and that was kind of my question too. So being in reserve, so the money's there. When does this grant application actually happen? When do you get notification of the grant, whether or not it is?
The process starts in the January timeframe where this is the grant funds from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Bureau of Justice. Comes through, and we go to the Public Safety Coordinating Council, of which the court administration and the sheriff and the judges and others sit on. And so it starts off about that time where that group provides to you, and Commissioner Bellamy is the chair of that group now, with the recommendations of their priorities. And then last year, we didn't actually get an award of the money until late August. And we had to call a special meeting in order to address it because of the federal budget. So that's about the time it comes around annually. So we have every reason to believe we are going to get it, but there's always the possibility of not.
So we're really not doing anything significantly different. We have the money in reserves because it is tentative. But once the grant comes through, we don't have to do anything. If the grant doesn't come through, then do we have to do a budget amendment to take this
Yes.
from reserves?
Yes,
Okay.
and we'll have to come back
All
before
right,
you.
and that makes sense. And I want to say thank you
Thank
for
you.
your service to
Thank
this
you very
community,
much.
for staying on top of this. And things have changed a lot, I'm sure, in the time that you have served.
Lost a lot of hair.
We all have, don't feel bad. All age differently, that's for sure, but,
Courthouse move.
you know, and the guardianship program, I am very happy to see that funded. You know, I said during the beginning of the budget process, you know, the fact that, folks didn't vote for an additional homestead exemption, which honestly, I really don't understand, but to me, it means they entrust us to make decisions. And I think this is the right one to fund this program. I don't know if I told you, but my brother does this as an attorney up in Michigan, and he really told me how important this is. So I guess you do listen to your family members sometimes.
You know, I want to come back next year and just give you the results, because you'll be amazed at how much it has changed people's lives and really kept the system, to be more honest. You know, it's getting things back in front of a judge quicker when we find out about them. It's a place where people can call and say, I live in Michigan, but my mom's in, Manatee County, and can I just have somebody, I think she's not getting the right treatment. I don't think she wants to do something, and they're saying she can't do that. And so this person will go out and investigate. If we have to do a court hearing, do that, et cetera. So I think it's going to be really nice.
Okay, thank you.
Jan, did you have something to add, or?
No, just that it's a pleasure to work with Walt and with Kim Miller, his right hand. It's been a pleasure.
She's out sick today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she took a cruise last week, and of course, you have fun, you got to pay the price, so.
Kind of sick.
Commissioner Ball?
Well, when is your last day?
November 30th.
November 30th. Okay.
I'm in the famous drop program, and so 5 years ago when I decided to do it, I didn't really think about it. Now that time's inching closer and closer, so.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, it is. I'll miss a lot of it, so.
Well, I want to thank you. I know all of the board members, we all feel the same. We're going to miss you.
Thank
We're
you.
going to miss seeing you. And you know what? I would love to hear about this program and the success that it has for our seniors.
We'll make sure that happens.
Thank
So,
you.
Okay, well done.
Thank you very much.
Take the rest of the day off.
All right. I'm glad I have your authority to do that.
Good comeback, Walt.
Next up is the state attorney.
Yes, sir. Within your packet, on page 73, is the state attorney's budget. And with us, we have Jennifer Strawn, who is from Ed Brodsky's office. And if you let me, Jennifer, I'm going to walk through what we have, and then if you can expand past that, okay? So again, the first column is the base budget from the prior year. Second column represents what they have requested. Third column represents what is in the budget before you. So if I'm going to go down through each one. The base budget was completely funded. There were some changes in our internal cost on our side, nothing to do with them, which decreased by $42,756. There was a request for an increase in the assistant state attorney 50% split that you have with Sarasota for $3,000, and then a request for a full-time drug court coordinator, and that was funded. The final one was also requested last year, was a full-time MSO deputy designated to the state attorney area. We did not fund this in the state attorney's area, but when we go through the sheriff's budget, we put it in his.
Oh,
Perfect.
you got it. Okay.
Moving down, the second half of the page deals again with Article 5 technology costs. And that has to do the base budget, $296,494. We had a slight increase in a multimedia specialist for $2,281. The request has come again for an IT director, representing 47.5% of the total needs. And then there were some changes in our internal cost of $10,520. So out of the total request of $715,613, in his budget, we funded $627,694 with the one deputy being in the sheriff's.
Wow. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would add, you're going to see a theme throughout that the opioid crisis and all of the impacts to the court system, to the state attorney, to everyone, were areas that we identified as lining up now to need to be addressed. So that is why you'll see many of these things requested for funding.
And if I might add, it's been a pleasure working with Jennifer, so it went very well.
Well, thank you.
Commissioner Whitmore.
Question, the MSO, is that a new position? It'll
Yes,
be
it
in-
is.
Okay. And are they going to be stationed then at the sixth floor? And is there like a metal detector that we have to pay for that I didn't see? I mean, are we doing that yet? or-
Been improvements made to the sixth floor entryway area that have already been made
Okay.
that I think are in line with what the state attorney feels is protective, and then to have the deputy as well.
Thank you.
You rock.
And again, that's going to be coming out of the sheriff's budget?
Yes, you'll see that in just a few
Part,
minutes.
yeah.
Funding a new position.
We can use it for other things.
Okay. Any other questions? That was
Just on-
easy.
On behalf of Ed Brodsky, he very much wanted to be here today to thank you for including our office in your recommended budget for your consideration. And I just wanted to let you know, and let you know, too, that it's been an absolute pleasure working with Jan Brewer and your staff over the years, and we just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
go to-
moving right along.
Yeah, guardian ad
Guardian ad
litem.
litem, which is on page 95. This is a small but mighty program, and they're coming up to the podium. If you don't mind, I'll go through it real quick, what we funded, and then I believe they would like to present some items to you. So again, looking at the third column, this is what is actually in the budget, comparing it to the second column. Base budget, $55,810. The changes went down by $1,822. Court technology, which is the Article 5 funding, remained steady, $17,352. We had a slight increase in our side of the expense, $2,4 40. And in the recurring tech, and overall summarizing at the bottom, you add those two subtotals together. So the total recurring cost that happens for guardian ad litem is $73,780.
Money well spent.
And it's been a pleasure. If, Mr. Chairman, I think they might like to speak a little bit.
Absolutely.
Hi.
You have the floor.
We have, well, I wanted to share with the commissioners and the. I'm sorry, Tony Latorti, I'm Circuit Director. And that's our Guardian Ad Litem Program Annual Report for 2019, so it'll give you a little information about what we do. And we are, as Mr. Smith stated, we are all impacted by the opioids that are happening in the community. We are grateful for you, for the consideration of the Second Circuit Judge, which is desperately needed. We ourselves, we advocate for children birth to 23, age 23, in dependency in Manatee County. Our program is appointed to about 767 children, but I can tell you Manatee County, there's about 200 plus children that we are not appointed to. So the number of children for this circuit, Manatee County has the most number of children sheltered between Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto. We are a volunteer-based program. We have about 279 certified volunteers who work alongside with our attorneys and our child advocate managers to help the children reach home or in a better situation. And we thank you for the funding that we do have from Manatee County. And I know at some point we may be having conversations about some extra help because we are impacted as well. When Walt was talking about the early childhood court system, court that they have in place now, as well as getting a circuit judge, that impacts us also because we'll have to staff a separate court, have more staff and volunteers available for that as well. So, don't know if anyone has any questions about our program in particular.
Yes, Commissioner Baugh, I believe.
I don't have any questions. I'm very familiar with what all you guys do, and it is amazing. I have often wondered how you manage to do what you do on the budget that you have. I think that is amazing. So, you know what, just keep doing what you're doing and helping those kids, because so often it's not their fault, and they take the heat. They feel like they're the ones to blame, and I have heard of stories, different things that have transpired because of the guardian ad litems, and it really is wonderful. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Very much, thank you.
Yeah, and I just add, it's just, what your service to the community is outstanding, and anything that can help the kids. And you guys are right there on the front line, changing lives every day. And we, all of us appreciate it in the county, so thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and that is why we do what we do, is because of the children, so that's how we get up and do it
Guys
every
rock.
day.
And are you still seeking volunteers? I know
Every
we
day.
have so many people in our community that do volunteer, but I think it's great if you have an opportunity. Tell people how they can volunteer in your program.
They can look at go to our 12 site, 12gal.com, and find out .com. We have an inquiry page where they can just put their information in. They can get a lot of information from our website. It doesn't hurt to inquire. It's not for everybody. It does take, it's a lot of work. I would say it's almost like having a job for a volunteer because they're not only working with the children, but the families as well, and the different agencies that we work with. But it is rewarding in the end to see the children reach permanency.
And you don't have CASA. My sister did CASA, and I didn't know what the difference between
It's just the
CASA.
name. Difference
Okay.
is the name,
Yeah,
but
just-
it's the same concept.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure working with these ladies. Sheila and I have worked closely with them.
They seem like great people.
You ready to move along?
Yep.
Okay.
Property appraiser.
Okay. Coming before you, hang on one second, because I lost my page just as I did that.
More backup.
115.
Thank
Is it
you.
the property appraiser?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, 115.
150?
The property appraisers, 115. The property appraiser's budget is not, it's a unique office. The tax collector and the property appraiser go through the Department of Revenue. and they ask for funding, and it's approved through the Department of Revenue, and then it's allocated amongst the people that they levy for and that they appraise for. So in this case, if you don't mind, I'm going to go through just what you asked for, and then we can expand upon that. The base budget started at $5,541,587. We did ask for the breakdown of the 3% that they need to mirror what is being proposed in the budget. The additions to the budget, they had one increase in FTE and some other salary situations that went through. That raised it to $103,496, and then some miscellaneous increases with their overall operating expenditures of $98,640. Your portion of that, of the $5.8 million, is $5,555,274. And the other item, it's broken down between the funds below that actually are being collected the taxes within. We have to break them down. I did have one commissioner ask for some further detail from Cindy, and Cindy just sent that, I guess, yesterday. So I will forward that on to you so that you have it. You have the backup detail that we have, but she provided a little bit further. Mark, I'll let you go.
Not much.
Oh, hi, Commissioners, and want to thank you all for letting us come over today. Mr. Hackney sends his regrets. He's on a vacation that's been well-deserved and planned for many months, so it's just fortunate. I'm sorry, I will. My name's Mark Johns. I'm the Chief Deputy for Property Appraiser Charlie Hackney. Just want to thank y'all again for letting us be here. Our budget this year, pretty flat. I want you to know that our operating budget and our capital budget, we actually reduced this year. All our increases are personnel-based. We are asking for one new position for a GIS analyst because of just technology changing us with our mapping system and such. Some of the other increases personnel-wise, this year, kind of a strange year in the way our pay runs. We have 16 extra hours we have to fund across the board because of 2 extra days in the budget year. That's not normal. We've had some increase in our FRS accounts that we've had to account for that's out of our control. Also, just want to remind the commission that last year we wrote you back a check for over $1 million. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And we should be able to do that again this year or something very close to it. There is, the compensation increases have been budgeted in the 3%. Without that increase, our overall increase is less than 4% this year, total wise. And just one other note, we've been working with Jan, and we just appreciate everything she's done to help us with a very large project, our pictometry.
You want to
Aerial
explain a little
photography.
bit about that to them? Because
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
Our aerial photography that we use is called Pictometry. It's a company that we've used for years, and pretty much all the counties throughout the state use for the aerial photography. And what that allows us to do is not only get a straight down view, but it gives us a 45-degree angle view of homes and all. And the aerial, the pixels of it now has gotten the resolution's so good, is that the state actually changed the laws that allows us to do our statutory rechecks of property from the aerial photography.
Wow.
Which in turn, yes, we spend $300,000 a year for this aerial photography, but it also saves us 6 to 8 people that we don't have to send in the field, and cars and fuel and all that. So the cost savings is tremendous. Thankfully, with the help of Jan, she has found us partners within the county, some, only part of it from the general fund and other from other funding sources, that allows us to only have to fund about $48,000 within our budget for the aerial photography. And with the fund and with the partnership, it's working out great because the county has others that need to use the aerial photography as much as we do. We've asked this year to go, instead of an every other year aerials, we're going to try to go to every year flights, which will enhance our abilities with the growth. It's just keeping up with this growth out east. We actually had to move our lines. In the rural areas, we only fly at what was called 9-inch photography, just a straight down shot, because there's just not enough out there. So over the last couple of years, we keep having to move one section further east because of the growth, and which just adds a little bit more cost, but it saves a lot of money. So, other than that, it's pretty straightforward this year. We just appreciate working with Jan and her office, and if you got any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, and maybe you answered this by saying it was a technology, but how do you get a decrease in the operating budget and a decrease in the capital budget when we are dealing with growth? I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, some of it is just some of our needs. We've over the last couple of years, we've upgraded a lot of our servers and computer systems, and so we're able to decrease there. We're in the process this year of even upgrading our website to where we're going to host our own website. Okay. So we'll actually be able to start saving some costs next year with our hosting of our website. We're going to do it ourselves in-house. Okay. Last year we had quite a expense of upgrading our mapping system to what's called Parcel Fabric, okay, which your county staff uses also. And we didn't have to put that in this year. So it's more technology things that we didn't have to include this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're done. Great job.
All right, thank you very much.
Charlie, hope he
Thank
comes
you.
back.
Yeah, we do too.
Best day ever so far.
And again, thank you, Mark and Cindy and her staff. It's a pleasure to work with them. So moving right along, the next one is the clerk, which is, if I got that correct now, because I got totally lipped up. Okay, page 125 is the clerk of the court. And if I may, I want to explain what has occurred. In the very first column, if you go all the way down, their total budget, base budget for the previous year was $7,553,703. If you take that number and move it all the way to the top of the third column, that's where we started. The clerk has actually reached in and had a decrease in cost of $9,772. The other items with the clerk, they also match and mirror what you do with your salaries. They provided the 3% calculation as well as the changes in the FRS based upon the new rates. Now with that brings the base budget up to $7,695,123. There was one requested change that Ms. Coloniso actually brought before you, and that was to prorate a 37% IT security FTE. And this is for someone on her side to also run the risk of assisting with security and enhancing it. That was funded at $41,204, but in addition, last year, the clerk had requested 2 part-time positions that she found critical in the Palmetto Historic Museum and the Ag Museum, and that's been funded as well. So her total budget would be $7,782,005. And I have to say, it's an absolute pleasure working with Angel and with Dan. And with that, I'll stop talking.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am seeking, the time has come, as you know, cybercrime is on the rise. And just to let you know what's going on in your county and what's going on in our office and how some of the things, I thought it was very interesting. We monitor the web traffic on our website, and the average is about 50 users at a time looking at that website. Well, at times what our staff has noticed is a big spike. All of a sudden that figure goes up to hundreds. What that means is we're being pinged, and a lot of times by other countries. attacks. We actually had what's called a firewall probing, where they come in and test our vulnerabilities. It actually led to, it was significant enough that they shut down the IP address to that particular country. The problem with that is you don't want to get in the practice of doing that. We have military members all over the world, and they need to be able to access their records as well. There are constituents too, serving across the world. So a cybersecurity expert would help us. Right now, I've got a very talented crew over there, but they have their own assigned specialties, and they all have to pitch in. There's at times, they have found a malicious code on the server immediately. It's vulnerability testing, where a hacker can check the server, check out the environment, but they've been able to catch it and shut it down. Once in a blue moon, you'd catch a password weakness where a country saw it, exposed it, tried to come in, but it's, again, they don't access anything. They were shut down. But that's because I happen to have a talented crew that catches it, but a cybersecurity expert could help prevent this in their own way, somebody with their own expertise, and maybe jump in. The latest, I think you all might know, the latest scam out there is for people to now fish in an email where they say, please, they pose as an employee, please deposit my direct deposit now into this account, and it's fraudulent. We haven't received that yet, to my knowledge, but it just keeps increasing. City of Stewart was recently shut down through a phishing virus. Their email was hit, and I think they were off over a week. We're trying to stay ahead, and the city of Atlanta is another example. Baltimore's experienced its own trouble. And I'm watching because we have sensitive information, sensitive records, and that's why it's come time where I felt I needed to ask for this position. And I want to thank you for considering last year, even though I wasn't asking for it this year. Thank you for the consideration of the 2 part-time positions out at the museum as well. Thank you.
I just,
I think we're gonna get this.
I just got-
You know, again, and I think I mentioned, there's probably nothing more important than the IT in all these areas nowadays. I mean, it's just getting, more and more dangerous, more rampant, and I think it's something that we need to keep staying ahead of it. So I like seeing that you're, adding a position over there. I hope that's enough to get a good quality person, to really help you, keep looking at those cyber attacks, because I think they're going to keep coming.
I found Commissioner Johnson that as we've moved along, I look at what's going on in other counties and research too to stay ahead of everything. And this seems to be a theme across the state, cybersecurity and their budget asks this year.
Commissioner Whitmore?
Actually, kind of what Steve said is 41,000 is not a lot of money for that type of person. Do you have other monies in your reserves that you're going to help with
Yes,
that?
that's
Oh,
fee
you
money.
are?
That's actually 37% of that position that we're just
okay,
asking
that-
for, not fully funding it.
Okay, got it, because I knew that couldn't be, you couldn't get somebody with what you need for that.
No, no,
Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Benak?
And I apologize for not asking this question of staff earlier, probably could have explained it. So when I look at page 126 and they have the requested adopted budget, and then it has base budget for HR of 108,176, then it goes down by 22. I just don't understand what is going down. Perhaps you can explain that.
The HR, you mean?
It's what,
one?
it's,
In
We
HR.
have had personnel changes. People have left. We have a completely new HR department that we're building from within.
okay, all right. 'Cause, I didn't know what HR, if it meant bigger, it's just the actual HR department.
It's gone down because of a whole new department, so generally you have people making less than the people who left.
Oh, true, true.
True.
Okay, thank you.
That's normally how that happens.
All right, great job, Angel. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Next on the list is the Supervisor of Elections. It is page 135. The supervisor is a bit unique. His accounting system is actually within yours, so it is funded within our own system. On page 135, you will see in the second and third column, he actually had requested changes to his budget, reducing of 92,682. Some of the reductions are actually due to one-time events that happened last year, so he doesn't need them this year. We did, with the increase of 3% to the personnel, we've added that into, which is 33,914. So his total budget is 2,528,432. And I don't believe Mr. Bennett is here.
No.
Yeah, he
I spoke
couldn't
with him
make
this
it.
morning. and
Oh, good.
He's across the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's drinking a Guinness right now.
I'll be on his fifth.
If there are no further questions, we'll move on to the sheriff. And that was located on page 141. And as the sheriff makes his way down, if I could, I'd like to just walk through what was requested and then what was funded, and then Sheriff, if you want to expand on any of that, if that's okay. Okay. So again, same pattern. First column is the adopted budget of last year. The second column is the request. Third column represents the total amount of the recommended budget. So going through the third column, we have acknowledged the base budget of 126,055,271 and matched it. We have been provided the personnel number of 3% that is needed. And also, they had some incidental changes in health insurance, and that would be people changing out, where they've added new deputies or done another one. Somebody may have a family coverage, or it may go into a single coverage. So that's what that change is. It's just on what they need to support of $84,393, and an FRS increase of $1,383,946. The operating increases that the sheriff denoted all the way down, $977,504. We matched everything that he needed for his operational increases. His other capital increases denoted $371,310, which we matched to fulfill what he needed. The difference came in that, as you noticed in column 2, there are 44 positions that the sheriff requested. What was funded is that you have 3 new school resource officers that are being put in place. One in Rolette, one in an elementary, and one in the North River. Middle school and a high school. Middle school and a high school, thank you. We funded 10 law enforcement deputies, 4 corrections officers, a crime scene tech, and a chemist. Thank you. And then the last one on the list is the state attorney deputy, where that one resides. We worked with Neil to make sure this is what the sheriff was working with what he had requested. And with that, we will be taking $800,000 of it from law enforcement impact fees for the new vehicles and the new equipment to outfit this expansion. So the general fund will be fronting $132,399,719. The non-recurring $660,000 and $660, and then total adopted budget $133,200,379. I couldn't get those numbers out, Sheriff. I don't know what was happening. But with that, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to turn it over to the sheriff.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. First, just let me say that it's been a pleasure to work with Sherry and to work with Jan on this large budget that Jan could not quite spit out because
That's true.
well, we continue to deal with the growth, and Sherry and Jan, they understand that. It's a compromise as we try to build up the force on the outside with the deputies, also understanding that internally records and the chemists and the other civilian positions that we have continue to struggle because of the growth as well. But we appreciate, some of the things that we can't really control, like the new schools. We have to have SROs in there. That's what the school board wants. That's what we want. I think that's what the community wants. So we are very pleased with the working relationship we have with all of you. I really have nothing negative to say. I know you may find that hard to believe. I mean, we are all dealing with the growth.
Sheriff, can you say that one more time? I want to make sure I heard
I
you
have nothing
correctly.
negative. I do have to say one thing so I don't forget. No, this may be negative, but not to you. I have to say thank you to Neil for being a calm, rational voice guy. He wrote that for me.
I wondered if he wrote that.
He wrote that for me.
I like him. This has been a really, easy process, and I think that, once again, we all understand, we're dealing with the growth there, but we can't put, all the eggs in one basket, this year, but this is a great step. You have given me 30 deputies in the last 3 years. They're being used, believe me. They are out there working hard, and it's making a difference. So thank you all very much, but I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Killing me.
Commissioner Benak.
Having a stroke.
Well, I almost hate to open my mouth at this point. I do want to say thank you
Yeah.
to you and your staff, all of your deputies, what you're doing in this community. It's not easy every day. And yeah, we are growing because people still see the quality of life as being excellent in Manatee County, and you guys are a great part of that. So I do
you.
want to say thank you for that. I did have a discussion a little bit with Mike Penley, because he sat across from him at lunch, and I was asking about Rowlett. And I said, in here, there is a school resource officer, and he said, no, we don't pay for that at the charter, at the charter schools. And I said, oh, I could have sworn I saw it. I read it this morning. I could have sworn I saw it. And then you said it, and I'm like.
But what you've had up until this point, you've had off-duty deputies working at Rowlett. They have been paying that.
Okay.
This is a charter school, but this is a middle school. These are our kids. I want to make sure that they receive the same quality
Right.
of security that all the public schools do. And Rowlett is a little bit unique because they don't have all of their students under one roof. They have a true middle school, and they have the elementary school at a different location, which has a guardian or will have a guardian. We're working with them on that as well. So we have been working with the legislators, as you know. They understand the need to make sure that charters have proper funding as well. But we just really wanted to get an SRO in that middle school.
But so we're funding half of it, and then school board's funding. Maybe
That's-
Mike just, that's not his bailiwick, I know. Maybe he just didn't know that. Because I said, I thought we also had a new elementary school. Were they budgeted already?
That's what you will be dealing with in the future. But we have the high school and the middle school now that will be
Okay.
starting up in August.
Okay, so the elementary school is next year.
I'm not sure what the opening date is on that, but
They're all three opening.
Oh, this year.
the elementary school is guardians.
Oh,
We
okay.
don't handle that part, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
For middle,
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just have to ask this because people ask me this. And I know it's depending on where we are, but the situation with the child abuse. And people ask us, is there something that we should be doing that we're not doing? And I know you had a domestic violence deputy. Would that make a difference? I mean, is there something we're not doing that we should be doing?
I'll tell you what the problem has been with us as far as the CPS side is that the state continues to not fund the sheriff's offices throughout the state that run CPS. They will not increase the funding. So we are eating a lot of the funding that we shouldn't be. And what I mean by that is that they don't provide raises to those employees that work for CPS. But we're going to give them the raise that they deserve. So every year, we spend more and more on those employees. Those are my employees, and even though those salaries are funded by the state of Florida, we're having a meeting about this actually in 2 weeks, all the sheriffs that run CPS, and they will not increase the funding.
Okay, well, if there's something we can do, let us know, because
Well, thank
A
you.
letter to our
we're,
president.
we're concerned about it, and I know
Fully.
everybody is. So
Yes,
thank
we
you.
are as well. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Commissioner Serbia.
Thank you, Sheriff, for being here, and I just want to say thank you as well. For years, I watched the sheriff come before this board.
I don't even
and
want to
I've-
think about
I've
it.
only been here for a few months, remember, but I watched the very stressful interaction, and so when I campaigned, I said, we've got to support our sheriff, and I campaigned on that, and I was ready to come to bat today for you guys, and I'm so happy that we can all just have a group hug and say, great job.
Will you?
And that's a big thanks to our county administrator as well, so.
Absolutely.
you
The
very
county
much.
administrator, Jan Brewer, we've always gotten along. I don't want people to think that we don't get along. We've always worked well together. But there comes a time where everyone has to understand that the growth is affecting, services. And they get that. But we also understand on the public safety side that we already take up a very large piece of this pie, right? So we are funded. So we had to concentrate on internally too. We provide the drug analysis that go on in Manatee County. We do that for the other agencies. So when there's a drug arrest and or those drugs need to be analyzed before the court date, we do that for BPD, Palmetto PD, and all of our deputies that are making cases. So this is going to help us tremendously. That's a big strain on one chemist,
Right.
and this will help us.
Commissioner Bellamy?
Yes, I also have to go on the record and say thank you for all that you're doing. I constantly, when I talk to and see deputies, I make sure that I tell them thanks. I remember when the Rowlett SRO issue came up, and I reached out to the sheriff and some other people from the community, and we talked about it. And one thing that the sheriff told me, he said, we're going to get this done. We're going to do it. And he's committed to doing it. And now that it's done, I just want to say thank you for the individuals in that community and for you and the things that you do to make sure that our community is safe on a day in and day out basis. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Ball?
Yeah, I'm wondering what county I'm in. I feel like I'm not sure where I am today, and it's wonderful. Sheriff, you guys are just fantastic. I mean, there is no way that, everybody would know that Manatee County has about the best sheriff's department of any county in the state of Florida. There is no doubt. And so I'm very happy this year that, I think this has been the easiest year that in my 6 years being on this board, and I'm actually in my 7th year, with the budget in the sheriff's office that I've ever seen or experienced, and it's wonderful because, we all know how important, the sheriff's office is to the citizens of this county, and it's nice to be where we are today with all that. And I'm curious though about the Florida Highway Patrol. I know you and I've had conversations in the past. And now that you are getting a few more deputies, I hate to see them all tied up going on calls that really your office, your department shouldn't be doing. Is there any change there or anything I can do to help that situation? I know it's a sensitive one.
The only thing that we can do, obviously we are having to pick up the slack, and we're working 150 to 200 traffic crashes a month now because FHP just does not have the manpower to do the job that they used to do. I feel very bad for them. These troopers are going from crash to crash to crash. They spend an entire 8-hour shift doing nothing but working traffic crashes. We pick up everything that they cannot. And also, they're not able to do any of the traffic enforcement that they used to do. So we're picking that up as well. So yes, it's been difficult for us to keep up, especially with the traffic complaints. So we have a traffic squad, but they're going from Duet all the way to Anna Maria, and everything in between as they try to work all the complaints that we get for traffic control. So, we can't allow the citizens of Manatee County to sit by and wait 3 to 4 hours for the highway patrol to get there. We can't do that. So we have to work those crashes. And the only thing I can tell you is that the legislators have to make that change and figure out how they're going to put more manpower here.
Okay, I got to admit, I kind of set you up on that, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
thank
what
you.
my response to that, I knew you were going to say that, I just knew it. So to the commissioners up here, before long, because of the session, the committee meeting starting early, we'll probably hit our legislative priorities kind of early this year as well. So, I've already heard 2 things that are state-related that we really have no control over. So, the highway patrol is something that I think we should probably talk about as being on our legislative priority list. I don't know if Nick is here.
Letter support.
It is on, we did add that.
You did?
We did, we added that, and we also added the topic of the local Child Protective Services, but you were right. he'll be back to you sooner. It'll be back in August, I believe, when he comes back with your full list.
Good job.
And I got to tell you, Sheriff, this is kind of weird for me. And you know, you and I have had lots of conversations, and she's always one step ahead of me. I don't know how to act now. You know, it's kind of like,
There's good communication.
Good.
There's good communication. And
Very
so I
good.
will say to all of you, because often you will email me about traffic complaints.
Yeah.
And we are going to get there when we can. We try to tackle it as soon as you get it, because I know that you're getting questions from the citizens that you work for, and so are we. So we are trying to get to them quickly. I think the problem is we can't stay long enough. So we're on to the next one. So just know that we're trying to take care of those needs that you have as well.
it might not be a bad idea perhaps to hit Tallahassee, some of us as well as law enforcement to emphasize the need. I talked to several when we had the situation out at Verna Bethany and State Road 70, earlier this year, and I know phone calls were made, from some of them, Bill Galvano's office, and I know I talked to Jim Boyd as well, and Tommy Gregory was involved, and, it's a matter of, I think we just need to keep on them and keep that pressure on, so,
Agreed.
yeah. Okay, thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Whitmore?
This is your third budget, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's been very refreshing since you've been in office because you have come up and been positive at every budget presentation, and I really appreciate it. In 2008 or 7, I was telling Reggie that I think the sheriff's budget had crashed down to 94, 97 million. But then, of course, we've had a major population increase. So we're all trying to like you said, we're trying to deal with growth. So I appreciate your professionalism ever since you've been in office. And I'm glad that you guys, the administrators, get behind the doors with you and work it out and come up with something that you can present to the commission. And you've always done it very professionally. And I just
thank
have
you.
to say that.
Thank you. I've had the pleasure of working with Sherry, for a very long time in different capacities
Right.
in the community. And so congratulations, proud of you and happy to see you in this position. We'll continue to do what we need to do to better protect and serve the citizens here in Manatee County.
Thank you.
We did negotiate, we'll just have to say. We didn't, it wasn't.
Sure you did.
It wasn't a slam dunk the first go around, but,
That's right.
but having a good relationship and knowing what's going on in the community and having the sheriff understand our constraints as well has been
Right.
helpful, so we were able to
I tried my
compromise.
best to slip it through the new person the first go around, but Sherry, buy it.
Had an
She
experienced
didn't buy
person
it,
that
yeah.
knew what was going on. Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's a great compliment to you and your staff to keep the budget, in that 6.5% range, given the growth that we're experiencing here in the county. And we all know it's a number one priority to keep the quality of life here. And, it's just, I'm impressed that you were able to keep it to where you were, because I was expecting a much higher request this year. So, thank you.
Team players.
And
Maybe
please
it
thank
was.
everybody else and, have a, great rest of the day.
All right, thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much.
Good job, Neil.
And Neil, you can go back to your day job. You don't have to sit at all our meetings anymore like you did yesterday.
No, we don't, you stay here. We want you here.
I know.
Okay, I don't see any, so at this point, we're going to open it up to public.
Oh, no, you still have two more.
Oh, I'm
Two
sorry.
more.
I was going, wow, I was just
Two
going
more.
on the
You
agenda.
have two more. Page 169 is public defender. I do know that
Where is
these,
he?
On here.
he's not here today. They weren't able to be here.
Wasn't here last year either.
And Charles Smith.
So the public defender and the tax collector are the two remaining. We'll go through those, and neither one of those are coming this afternoon. The public defender, if you look at the far column for what was recommended in the budget, we recommended that his base budget be funded. He had a slight increase FRS salaries and other contractual of $16,295. And an increase in Iron Mountain, which is a program that they use internally, of $2,172. The part that they requested non-recurring was some painting, carpeting, and construction, and we're going to try to take care of that this year instead of waiting till next year. The second half of the page, again, deals with Article 5, which is court technology. If you noticed, his request from FY19 went from $200,000 to $424,000. So what we funded was a similar level of what is happening with the state attorney, and what we would like to recommend is we will work with them and schedule this in over several years to make it work.
I think that's such a small budget.
Good.
Commissioner Benak.
So did you actually have a meeting with someone in the?
Yes.
Okay, so they understand where this is?
Yes.
Yeah, because I saw, you know,
Everybody on the
that
same
they
page.
didn't get everything they asked for, and I didn't
Correct.
know, just generally, I mean, we provide a portion, right, of what we're obligated to do at the county level.
What has always happened is that the way Article 5 is written, it's your responsibility for the court technology. The constitutional offices have been gracious enough to work with us as what we can afford, especially in the downturn years. We do realize they went back and they reevaluated some things. Marianne Conlon's gone on vacation. That's my contact within the office. When she gets back and as we go through further in this budget process, if anything changes, I'll bring it back to you. But based upon what I understand right now, we're going to fund at this level and then work over the next couple of years to fund. Again, they're funding their floor where Walt Smith is funding the whole building.
Right,
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Big difference.
And they're over at the courthouse, just so people know that in the public when you're talking versus in
Yes.
this building.
Yes, and then if there's no questions,
None.
Mr. Chairman, page 203 is the last page, and that is the Manatee County Tax Collector. The tax collector is very unique. Again, he reports his budget to the state of Florida, to the Department of Revenue. It is actually within statute what the calculation is on every dollar that you collect. So there's an overall calculation step that you go through. You also, by statute, pay for the school board's collection. So we go through, calculate everything, and it is an automatic calculation with them. It's not that they're asking for any more. This is based upon the ad valorem that you're going to collect. And with that, that actually concludes the constitutional officers.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, unless there are any other questions about
Public comment?
Yes. Let me just let you know that once you do adjourn, or not adjourn, but conclude this portion of the meeting, we will allow METV to take down the actual broadcasting, and we will give a few minutes for Public Works to come forward. They're going to do their department presentation. Shortly after them, the the Financial Management Department, and then lastly, your Board of County Commission and County Administrator Department. Then you'll be complete with all of your department reviews as well. And the last thing to leave would be for June 19th is the capital improvement plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, we will open this up to public comment on the constitutional officers' budgets. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make any comments? Seeing nobody, we'll close public comment. At that point, we will now adjourn for 10 minutes, or
No, we're
as soon as we can get the MTV back together. Make it 15.
Thank you. We'll get set up. Thank you.
When you did that yesterday?